Hey, what's up, life designers? Welcome to Intentional Tuesdays. We have a rather unusual topic this week, and sadly, it's a timely one given the news that has recently come out of El Paso and Dayton. Even worse, I fear that regardless of when you may be watching this video, the chances are it will be in the shadow of some similar tragically violent event. The topic this week is relevant, and I hope you find it interesting. So the question for this week is, how do we reduce the likelihood that either we or someone who we love will be the victim of a violent act? So if that sounds interesting to you, then stick with us because we're going to jump right in. The most efficient, the most potent, and the easiest thing that you can do to increase your safety, to reduce the likelihood that either you or someone you love will be the victim of a violent act, is to read the book The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. Now, this book has been around for many, many years. In fact, over the years, I probably have given away at least 100 copies to my friends and colleagues and loved ones. And I really do think that everyone should read this book. Certainly everyone over the age of 16. I think it should be required reading in high school, and I really can't recommend it enough. Now, that said, I know that many people will not read this book. And the reason for that is actually the topic of this week's video post. If you are interested in learning more about the book, The Gift of Fear, that's what I cover in the written portion. I go into a fair bit of detail about the types of topics that Gavin de Becker is addressing and the general premise of the book, which is really how your intuition is your best defense mechanism. But here in the video, I want to address the apprehension that many people have around the topic of violence and why that fear, and it is a fear that causes us to have that discomfort, that apprehension, how that comes into play. And to me, that's the most relevant angle from a Life Design Center perspective. The most interesting angle is, why are we so afraid to engage a topic even though it could be incredibly helpful for us to do so? The reality is that violence makes us uncomfortable, particularly violence of a personal nature. The idea of somebody breaking into your home solely for the purpose of causing you bodily harm is terrifying. You know, we would much prefer to think that somebody is breaking into our home to steal something. That gives us a level of comfort, which is odd if you think about it. But the idea of somebody coming in there specifically to cause bodily harm is a really terrifying thought. In fact, I suspect many people will have nightmares tonight simply by watching this video or as a result of reading the blog. And for that, part of me wants to apologize, but part of me doesn't. If experiencing a little bit of discomfort right now or in the near future as a result of reading a book can spare you the discomfort of actually undergoing and experiencing a violent act, to me there's just no comparison. So on some level I apologize, but on some level I really encourage you to experience that level of discomfort. In my estimation, it's well worth the price. You know, we have this fear of engaging the subject of violence, and we are good at rationalizing why that's okay. So for example, people will say, the odds of me being the victim of a violent crime are so low, they're almost negligible. Why do I want to invest any of my emotional energy? Why do I want to invest any time in thinking about things that will almost certainly never happen? It's absolutely true. The odds of you being a victim of a violent crime are relatively low, but they're not zero. And that is the reality. And not only are the odds not zero, the consequences are incredibly high. So, from that perspective, I equate this to wearing my seatbelt. I've been driving for 30 years, 25 years, I can't even do the math. I've been driving for a long time, and I've never had a very serious car accident, but I wear my seatbelt every single day. And to me, it's a similar argument. If it's the right thing to do, even though the odds of a catastrophic event happening are very small, if the investment to try to avoid the most severe outcomes is small, to me, there's really no argument there. It's worth making that small investment. Another angle that I hear often when people resist this topic is, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live a life of paranoia where I think danger is lurking around every corner. I don't want to have to treat people like they're guilty of something. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I want to assume that people are good in this world. I don't want to assume that everybody is a predator, that everybody has bad intentions. I totally agree with this. I prefer to give people the benefit of the doubt as well. In fact, I believe that most people are worthy of that benefit. I think for the most part, most people are good. I think 99 out of 100 people are well-intentioned and are thoughtful, compassionate humans. There's a very small number of people who would be in that category of violent or dangerous people, but it only takes one. That's the problem. It only takes one person to cause irreparable damage to somebody's life. So from that perspective, I'm not suggesting that we live in a state of constant paranoia and fear, but at the same time, there's value in exploring the topic and addressing the problem in an appropriate way, in a level that is commensurate with the risk. Again, I kind of equate it to something like locking your door at night. I mean, I lock my door every night. It just seems like such a small investment to just turn the deadbolt. And I don't sit there at night, sitting by the back door waiting for somebody to open it. I turn the deadbolt and I go to sleep. So, that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about living in a constant state of paranoia or fear. We're simply talking about taking a realistic look at the world and adjusting accordingly. So I mentioned earlier the resistance that many people will experience even in just picking up the book and seeing what it has to say is all grounded in fear. Now, it's ironic that fear is in fact represented in the very title of the book, The Gift of Fear. It's that fear that Gavin de Becker says is our body's defense mechanism. It's our body's way of telling us that, hey, something is dangerous here. This is a situation you should be alert to. So the fear is actually our friend. And it's just ironic that fear is going to be the thing that stops many people from even taking the first step of making themselves safer. Ultimately, the book is about listening to the protection system that your body already has and that you've already got in your life. It's not so much about asking for something new. So that's it for this week's episode of Intentional Tuesdays. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope I've challenged you to think about a somewhat uncomfortable topic in a slightly more skillful way. Speaking of books, I've got some exciting news. A little bit premature. I hope to really be able to announce this in the next couple of weeks, but after 2 long years of hard work, I am happy to say that I can see the finish line with regards to my book project. I've been working on this book for a long time, and it's nearly finished, so I'm pretty excited to be able to bring that to you. So if you're interested in getting updates on the book, you can just go to the homepage of the website, lifedesigncenter.com. There's actually a survey there because I haven't quite nailed down the title, so you can help me out by offering up your suggestions on a title. Just click on the button to complete the survey, and I would be greatly appreciative of any input you might be able to offer. With that, I wish you all the best. As always, I appreciate your time and your attention and look forward to connecting with you in the future. And until then, I wish you a prosperous journey. Take care.